So today we are working on a new class. So means like class 2. So we need to create a new branch. Git checkout -b class 02. If I do, it will check out. Now if I say git branch, you can see 3 classes are there and it is active for class 2. But still that code will not go because once you push it will go. Fine. So here what I need to do. If I say git status, you can say that it is clean. But I just created one empty folder. If you create an empty folders, it will not be checked in automatically. Until unless the folders have some files within it, it will not go. So this is one learning. Okay, now I want to add the course content. Course content. But see, if I do like course content.txt, it is coming outside because I clicked here directly. But if I click here on that particular folder and then click on the new file, then it will create that within it. So if I say hello.py like that. Now coming to the course content. See, the moment I did a .py, it is saying like, hey, do you want to install this extension? Yes, it's a recommended thing. It can help you. It is same like a ordinary Visual Studio Code on your local system. Same way it works here also. It can help in terms of identifying any linting errors. Okay. So here, if you see the VS Code, the process is very simple. This is called as the Files tab, where you can see the Files Explorer. And if you want to search for any file or anything, this is how. And this is like GitHub. So the code commits and you can do. Either you can do command line or like this. I prefer you to do in the command line so that you can learn the things. Next, you have like a run and debug tab. You can park it for a moment. You can do it here also. I can introduce this concept later point. And the next point is the extensions. Every IDE will have this kind of extensions to support different languages. So did you see now it popped up for installing an extension, right? That's how it installed these Python extensions. But along with that, there are other recommendations. If you can see, it is saying that these are all the recommendations. If you want, you can install like GitHub Copilot and all these things. But at this moment, it's not for us. Ignore them. But in future, if you want to install, you can do. So like that, if you want to do like a test configuration, this is a new tab. So when you're doing like unit testing, I will show you that. And like, so GitHub related and others account related. So this is like the idea about the VS Studio Code. So now in terms of the files working, so coming to the course content, what is our course content? What we gonna work? As I told you, so our course content is like this, where if I at a point like I don't want this, I can click here, it will toggle that tab. If I want it again, I can click. So if you see here, we are interested in doing the dev setup, installing Python and GitHub Access. So till here, it was done in class 00, right? We did it. Class 01, which is yesterday, 25th. So now we are working about importance of Python. What are the 2 versions of Python, built-ins and others? So initially coming to this concept of what is this Python 2 versions? What are the 2 things that you can work? As of now, it is a legacy, but earlier 2-3 years back, it used to be a transition. So it forced everyone. So there is something called as Python end of life. You can just go for end of life, not just for Python. End of life is like a website. It will give end of life for all languages for each versions. So if you see, every language will have some kind of end of lives. Say 3.12 is the latest one. When it came 3 months, 3 years ago, so 3 weeks ago. So till what time it is available? So what is this end of life concept means? When a language is developed by some developers, they will support it for some duration only. Why can't they support for more time? Because when they are adding new version, new changes, sometimes the changes will be big enough. So if they sit on to the same thing, they cannot add like new features. So that's why they do for every version, how much time they will support. So within that only we should use. Beyond that, we cannot use. So even if you go for the Python official versions, yeah, this is more clear for you. Python 3.2.6 and 2.7 is for like more time. So for the past, decade, if I say, so recently for the past 3-4 years, there was a lot of push. So, but like earlier, people used to work with 3.2.7 a lot. Still, few people are there in 2.7. And so now the latest version is 3.13. But most of the people will be around this, 3.7, 3.8 still. It doesn't mean that end of life support was done means people will not work. So there can be someone who will working on the legacy systems and others. But you need to understand how this ecosystem works. So if you are doing some kind of migrations of an old legacy code, in that case, still you need to understand how Python 2 works. Say if I want to work on Python 2 online, so you can find some kind of compilers or anything where you can work on Python 2. Say like I'm working on Python 2 here. Okay. So you have an environment for Python 3. So you have like a environment for Python 2. So first starting with Python 2 environment in Python 2, what happens is like, so if I write like print hello world, so you can run it. You can see the output hello world. Did you see that this is called as print as a statement? At the same time, print can also be done in like a function. So that is also a possibility. So both these things work in Python 2. Whereas if I do the same things in Python 3, so it will not work. If I come back and start running this file, clear, Python, can I run hello directly? No. So is it in the current directory? In the current directory, I don't have that Python file. I have that file in this 01 introduction. So if I need to run 01 introduction / hello. So like this, I need to run. So I got like an error saying that, hey, missing parentheses in the call. Do you mean like print as a function? So now we understood that. So this statement doesn't work. But if I comment it, it works. In Python, we have like a comment operator. I will tell more about it. But what you need to understand is like, so this works only in Python 2. In Python 3, only the second one works. Hope you understood one difference. So like that, in the same fashion, if I go for like, there is some concept called as try exceptions. I will tell what is the try exceptions afterwards. But typically to understand, if I say like 1 plus 0, what will happen? I get what? Nothing, because I am not making any print. If I make like this, now 1 plus 0 means fine. What if I say 1 into 0? Multiply. If you multiply, it will be 0. No problem. What if I do 1 divided by 0? So that is where it will have a problem. If you see now, 1 divided by 0, it is throwing an exception, right? This is how generally Python works. But if you want to handle this, there is something called as try. Within the try block, you can place. Means I got a doubt that it can break the code. Whichever things you feel like it can break the code, try in that try block. I can write with an exception. Okay. So I can say like got exception. Got exception. Exception. So if I do like this now, did you see instead of getting an error, I got an exception. But you don't know which exception you got right. If you want like that, in Python 2, we can write like this, comma, And here you write what is that exception. Now, did you see it's more clear now? You're saying like, hey, got exception, 0 division error, integer division by so and so. In Python 2, you can do like this. This is called as exception handling scenario. In the same fashion, in Python 2, they have added one more syntax also. You can do like an as. So if I do like this, both are working, right? These are two types of things which will work. Now coming back to the Python 3, the same things I will write. You see, I do like an ordinary print statements, it works. I have written like exception comma like this and exception like this. So here, if I don't want this terminal down because every time it is like problematic, right? So I told that in the file, if I go to the view, in the appearance, if I say panel position, right, now did you see it has gone to the right side? It's easy now, I can focus more, right? Yeah. So now, if I need to run this program, how? Every time I need to go to 0 introduction, then write hello.py. So what it is saying? Hey, exception, this syntax of comma doesn't work here. So works only in Python 2. So if I comment this entire syntax, because the same thing I introduced down also with an as, right? If I run this program again, did you see it is working perfect? Now, did you understand that certain things works only in Python 2? Certain things works in Python through 2 and 3 also. So to make everyone to transition to Python 3, they introduced certain features which work both in Python 2 and 3. Like that, they added slowly so that people will come. But sir, were these the only changes? No, there are much more changes. So, but at this stage, you need to understand that there were some changes. Slowly, when we are working, I will tell you. So what are those changes? How things are happening? Hope it's clear. Now, going back, you understood the Python 2 and 3 differences. So instead of making like a hello, I can say like Python 2, 3 differences, right? I can rename this file and tell. So I can click on that file, rename. I can say like a. So Python 2, 3 diffs. Okay, that's an easy way for us to remember. So why I wrote a? Because when you're reading, it's easy, right? Now, next time when I write a new file, I can say like B. So if I say like B, say like second.py. Okay, leaving about Python 2 aside, if you need to understand core features and try to work, how it actually works. Let's assume that Python supports the same thing, hello world, like a function. Perfect. How to run it? Python. So is it in the current directory? No, we need to go. Every time if I do 0, 1 introduction, it's a big difficult, right? So better that you go to the directory. So from then onwards, you can do Python. So B so and so. I need not write entire program name. Python space B I wrote. Then I gave a tab. With B, what all things are there, it will show. If there are multiple things, you can write multiple tabs such that it will show different options. So that is how you do. And every time I don't want the previous line. You remember in Windows, I did like a CLS, but CLS doesn't work in Linux, right? We should write clear. Now I got a thought. What if I write clear and Python B so and so? Did you see? Same concept, like what you did in Windows, same thing. You are clearing the existing screen and running this current program. See, every time you see that. Now, hello world, you understood how it is working. Now, previous things, what we wrote, number 1 is equal to 100, number 2 is equal to 200. You did it, it's working. You use that variables, but you are not printing anything. So first of all, I am making some new variable called as number 1 plus number 2. Processing will happen, but as you are not printing, nothing will happen. So if I write like, say, number 3, will it print? No. So we should have like a print statement. That's where we can do. If I say number 3, you can see that number 3 is printed. But if I say the same number 3 in quotes, it will print that number 3 in quotes. So whatever is quotes is there, as it is, it will print. When you're printing, quotes will not be there because it's like a string as it is. For better understanding, what we do, number 3 we do, and comma we do, and number 3. So beauty of Python print statement is we can have multiple things simultaneously. So the best thing is, instead of just printing like this, I can have even a is equal to. So then it's easy for us to understand. Now we understood the bit things about it. So now I can repeat the same things for all. And if you want, I can write even an empty print statement. So it will not do anything. But did you know that after printing everything, we are not moving the cursor to the new line every time? It is automatically going. When you don't give also, what happens? Nothing will be printed. So, but it will go to the new line. Now, so I can repeat the same thing. Control X means to cut the value. Control V means paste. Say if I have 3, like this I can do number 1, number 2, number 3. So if you print now, all were coming at one shot, right? So fine. And also in this process, I told what is the concept of if you are asking for a new number which is not defined or so and so, it will throw an error. This is called as name error. So slowly you are seeing different kinds of errors, right? Now, so coming back to the next thing, a typical hello world program, how we need to write. So new file, C, pip 8, so file .py. What do you mean by pip8 file? You remember on the other day I told what is a pip8? Pip8. Pip8 is a style guide for Python. I told you remember there are multiple things we need to follow. So there were some guidelines for the best thing, like how many spaces you need to give and all. So we'll come slowly one after the other. So initially to start, they say that when you're writing a program, till now what you know, any file, how you need to run, Python plays C, so and so, right? So this is what the only way you know. But generally in Linux, if you remember, we can do a / execution also. / execution. If you want to do the / execution, so first you need to understand one thing. So in this particular directory, you have 3 files, but they were not executable. So if you want any file to be executing, I'll give a simple context for you to understand. Say in Windows, if you want to open a PDF file, will you go right click and open with PDF, Acrobat Reader or something every time manually, or you double tap? Most of the time we double tap, right? So initially for the first time, you configure what is the application to open. So it will open with that. Similarly, you have a HTML file or any file. In Windows, what we do, you just double tap and open it. It knows in the backend with whom it need to open, right? Just imagine in Linux, what will happen? In the command prompt, now we are seeing this much, but generally in production servers, you don't have a big UI or something. Mostly it is console based, right? So they will have some configuration. If I say a Python program should be executed like Python plays so and so, Perl program should be executed in this way. So for every program, they don't know like with whom to execute, right? So it would be difficult for them. So for them also, there should be some kind of shortcut. So that is called as shebang line. What is a shebang line means? If you want to know like where your Python is installed, there is a command called as which Python. In which Python or which Python 3, if I say, So it is saying like this, means in the bin directory I am having. If you don't know about Linux, Linux has a proper file structure. Unlike Windows, Windows has C drive, D drive like that, right? So in Linux, there is a bin drive, user drive like that. Bin is the directory where all things will be stored, binaries. So they say that you write this line in the starting. So that's the reason if you go for Python files or PHP files, shell scripts everywhere, you can see this thing. So in the end, you will see like for Python, it is Python or Python 3. For shell script, shell or like, bash or anything. For shell script, you'll see bash. So PHP, you'll see PHP like that. So what is this line, sir? What is it mandatory? It's not mandatory. I told you that it is making sense only in Linux and Mac. So not in Windows. In Windows, this will be just like a comment line. In Mac, what will happen is like, if you see -L, if I say, so you are seeing all the files, right? And their permission rules. If I do like chmod plus X, means I'm creating like an executable, C so and so. Now, if I do like same -L, did you see that X option came? And did you see the color was changed for you to understand? Means it became like an executable. So if I say /C so and so, earlier we couldn't do like this. Say if this B Python is there, can I do like that? /B Python B second.py. If I execute, it says permission denied. Means if you want to execute like this executable, first we need to give that chmod plus X. If I do like this, in the permissions, you can see executable permission. Did you see? For the user, executable permission is not there. I gave now executable permission to all, plus X means. So, okay, that is a bit into Linux, but coming back. So what is the advantage of it, sir? I told you, right? In Windows, we need to have a shortcut because we need to fastly work. Open a PDF file or open a Word file or anything, we have a default software associated. Or first time you configure. So in Linux also, to make it easy, say they need it. Just imagine like a typical hello world or anything only. So whatever the application. So any Python program can be executed in two ways. One is directly Python space, the file name, 2 / like this. Now, did you see? Is there any difference in terms of execution? No. Here you are explicitly telling that, hey, execute this with Python. Python means like what? It will go to the environment variables, check for where is Python and execute. But here you are just doing a / execution. If you want to do / execution, it should be there in the first line. If you are doing like / execution and the shebang line is not there, now did you see what is happening? Same command, what it is saying? I don't know like this one, I don't know unexpected tokens and everything. Now if I specify that and re-execute again, means it checks in the first line, and this is called a shebang line. When you have like a hash followed by exclamation, it's treated like that. Okay, now you understood a brief idea about what is shebang line. Next, after shebang line, they expect to have a docstrings. So docstring is like a 3 double quotes. We can have single quotes also, but single quotes are for a different purpose. This is called as shebang line. Within the shebang line, so we should specify what is the importance of this program or this project or anything. I wrote like a purpose. I wrote like basic Pipette guidelines. Hey, you can follow these things. These are the guidelines. You see, now it's clear for you. Now, if I do a / execution, you see, hello world, because that's the only thing. These were not the documentations. This is for a documentation. That's why it's called as doc string, documentation string. Means at the end of your project was completed, we can write some documentation also. This will help there for the users. So as you know, so with print statements, print as a function, print as a statement are two things. Hope you remember, I showed previously also. This is called as print as statement. it doesn't work in Python 3. Print as a function works in Python 3. But within that, you can give any data type, any number of values. Now, if you see in this case, I gave like 3 values. It just worked right. Perfect. So there are no rules. Similarly, in Python, I am writing like a small function to show you. So you can create functions like this. Def is a keyword. You write your function name, some inputs. It is doing some logic. Again, we will come back. So you know everything is written in English. It is doing some logic. Say like every time I want to clear the screen and run the latest one. Now did you see? How are you, Uday? It is showing. So in Python 3, it is supporting something called as UTF-8 or Unicode. So what is that Unicode and what is the ASCII? So Python 2 supports by default ASCII. ASCII means American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Means initially in the stage of like 1960s at the time, when the computers are created, they want to code, right? So on the keyboard, if I'm taking like J or K or M thing, so how does my system know that I clicked only on J? Because for the J key on the keypad, there is a proper number which is mapped. So that the operating system will recognize, the CPU will recognize. That's how you do. For everything, there is some kind of codes. That is called as the ASCII code. So you can see that ASCII codes. You got big ASCII code. So whenever you're typing like see, he's explaining the same things. I want to show the table of ASCII codes. Let me show. I think I'm in the wrong place. Yeah, if I go for the images, that's easy. Yeah, you can see ASCII codes for everything like that. Similarly, yeah, this is easy for you to understand and digest. See now, if you type like 1, what key happens? 2, what key happens? 3, what key happens, like that. Then what is this UTF-8, sir? UTF means, so it's an encoding format, because in real world, there is not only English, right? There are multiple languages. If you want to work on multiple languages, you cannot work in this 128 characters. You need more. That's why UTF-8 is UTF-8, UTF-16. These are like format. How many bits we have? That's it. It has much more big things. I think Wiki is the best thing to show. If you see, it will store like multiple other languages, Chinese, Japanese, Indian languages, and others. If you assume that I want to work on Telugu, you see, I have written the same program like this. So in Python 3, it facilitated this by writing Unicode characters directly here. So now, did you all understand what is the main things which are needed? Those are called as keywords. Def. Def, I am not writing in Telugu. Print, I am not writing in Telugu. Format, I am not writing. Means these are some keywords, some functions which have some importance. But other things are user defined. Now, if you see execute, it is working, right? So this console is not supporting that UTF-8 characters. That's why it's not showing. But you can see, right, how things are working. Hope with this one example, you understand clarity about. So what is this all about? Now, coming to the next part about the dynamic typing concept. So what is dynamic typing? What is static typing? So this is another thing. So just to tell you, Shebang line, what we wrote in the starting of the thing, it's not mandatory, but it's a best practice to have. If you feel like you will never use them and you will not have like a Linux or a POSIX environment, you need not worry. But it's better to write the doc strings every time. You can write the purpose of your languages. So now coming to the case of these dynamic typing languages to understand. So first you need to think about languages are of 2 types. One is static type languages and dynamic type languages. So static type language means example C, C++, Java, all those things. If you have some experience or an idea, hope you remember that first you define like int a, float b, like that. That is called as declaration. So then you will use it. So just imagine like, so what is this declaration? What is this usage means? First, just imagine with an analogy. If you are creating a new shop, you need to create almirahs for each of the things. If you are bringing a rice bag, you need to have a bigger almirah. If you are bringing a salt packet or a sugar packet, you have a small almirah, right? So based upon how much things, what quantity you are bringing, that much space you are reserving. In the same fashion, in programming also like that only it happens. First, you define something as an int. So it will occupy 2 bytes. Float 4 bytes, something. So like that it will occupy and store. Then you assign a value. Means after the almirah is ready, you store the value and you process it. Whereas in dynamic type languages, you need not think, because int every time occupies only X amount of space. Float occupies only a fixed space, like that, right? You give the value, based upon this, we will decide. Means when you did like, number 1 is equal to 123, as 123 is an integer, it knows how much space to assign and it will do automatically. If I say number 2 is equal to 123.5, then it will do automatically. The best thing is like for the same variable, you can assign a different data type again immediately. So it will automatically change it. So this is called as dynamic typing. Either on the same variable or different variables, you just assign the values. You need not worry about anything. So it is a very good concept, especially if you go for the examples like Python, Perl, Ruby, and others. So this is very much useful. Now, so if I want to assign, let's take a simple example of number 1 is equal to 10. Similarly, if I have number 1 equal to 10, by itself, you can understand it's an integer. So if I tell like type of number 1, then I should get the type of it, right? If I clear Python d so and so. Did you see? Nothing came because I didn't write a print statement. So if I write a print statement for it now, did you notice that if I execute, it is saying it's of type integer. So as we have some discussion in terms of what to print, how to print, we have understood like what the discussion. So finally we understood that number 1 equal to, like this we can write in quotes. And if you write a number, obviously it will print that, right? That's what we understood. So we understood like this. To make it much more clear, along with that itself, we can print the others. Means print within that number 1 is equal to number 1. And after that also I can write a quote. So type of number 1 is equal to type of number 1. So now it is much more clear. So if you want to clear the previous screen and print mine, now did you see? Number 1 equal to 100, it's of type integer. Now you got to one clear picture. Now what is this concept of dynamic typing means? Till now, we know that if you define some variable, you can change the value, right? On the same thing. Even in C, C++ also we can change. If it is an integer, we can change to integer only. Then it makes no sense. So the same thing like a C++. Once you define a variable, you are changing the value. Oh, sorry, number 1 I am doing as a 300. Did you see now? Number 1 equal to 300. It is of type integer only. Now, so the concept of dynamic typing comes here clearly. Means on the same variable number 1, I want to change the value. Means instead of 300, I am doing 300.0. The moment I made a dot 0, it becomes a floating point value. Did you see? 300.0 type is like float. Similarly, for the same thing, I can change different data types. I change it to float. So I will change to, I will write a small comma at the end. So, or even if I remove that, if I just write a dot also, even this is also a valid floating point value. If you write it just a dot. So, or if I write like a comma at the end instead of a dot, this is very interesting. At this moment, you may not understand, but in future you will realize what is it about. This is called as like, floating point value. Sorry, tuple. So when you have a single value followed by comma, it is treated like a tuple. What is this? It is called as a data structure in Python. I will tell about its importance afterwards, but slowly you will realize it. Then after that, you have like you say, for the same value, if I write like, so if I write like, I or a j, hope you remember what is like, imaginary value. In Python, we don't have I, we call it as a j, that is called as complex value. Similarly, for the same thing, if I write like in quotes, if I write, then it is treated like a string. See, just a small changes I'm making, it is making a big difference. Similarly, for the same thing, I can make like assign a different value. Say, what if I write it like a none? Make you like I'm making an empty print, such as things will be different. Or what if I am writing like a boolean, say like a true? What if I am taking like false? Did you see what happened? So when I take a none, it is called as none type. Bool means boolean type, like that. So like that, it is happening. So assume that's the same true I have, but within quotes I have. So then what happens? Though it is like a false, but it is in quotes. That's why it is a string. Hope you all understood what I'm trying to say. So we need to understand that strings must be declared within quotes.